Welcome, dear viewers of Sam Bubble's channel. Today we have a very special summary of the Joker movie. When a corrupt society turns its children into monsters, and when the killer of innocence gains the sympathy of society, it is expected to be in the city of Gotham. And our movie today begins in 1981 in the city of Gotham, with Arthur Fleck, who works as a clown in a city that is experiencing an economic depression for the first time. Arthur suffers from mental disorders that sometimes make him laugh hysterically, and he cannot control himself. And often it is at the wrong times. Arthur, one day while he is in a show in the street stealing, a group of young men beat him up and run after them so that he can return the sign. But they enter the street and attack him and beat him, and he falls to the ground in a state of frustration and inability to protect himself. Arthur contacts a social worker who helps him provide medicine for his health condition, and the one who obliges that he takes 7 different types of medications and tells her that I am imagining or the situation has become crazy outside. The specialist shook her head and kept quiet. Arthur lives with his sick mother, and he is responsible for her. His mother was always sending letters to Thomas Wayne to help them, and she tells Arthur that I worked for them for many years. He will definitely respond to me. As for Arthur, his role model was the presenter Murray Franklin. At the beginning of Arthur's workday, his colleague Randall tells him, "I heard that you were beaten yesterday. If you keep on like this, they won't leave you alone." He gave him a gun and told him that you have to protect yourself. When Arthur tried to refuse, Randall convinced him that he needed to be with him these days. He told him to give him his right later. Here his colleague Gary calls him and says to him the manager hot wants you in his office. When Arthur went to the manager, he told him, "I will take you to perform at a comedy club. But I received a complaint from Kenny's shop saying that you disappeared and took their sign." Arthur told him, "I didn't take it, some guys beat me up and stole it." The manager told him, "You have to return it or I will deduct its value from your salary." Arthur, while he was going to meet this neighbor Sophie in the elevator, and they had a little chat, and he felt that she liked me. After that, Arthur started watching her, and he invited her to attend his show at the comedy club. And one day while he was performing at a children's hospital, he dropped his gun at the manager hot when he knew his word and said to him, "Your colleague Randall is definitely mine and told me that you tried to buy a gun from him last week. And today he is going to the children's hospital show. You are fired." And while he was going in the train, there were 3 guys, obviously they are rich people, who harass a girl sitting alone, and Arthur started laughing hysterically because of his illness. The young men started mocking him and assaulting him and beating him. Suddenly, Arthur was on the ground. He pulled out a gun and shot them one after the other, and shot the 3rd in the legs while he was trying to escape. Here, the turning point for Arthur, after he felt pleasure after the killing. And when the train stopped, he got off after the 3rd person calmly and killed him with 3 bullets in cold blood and fled the place. Here, the corrupt society was able to turn his sons into monsters. And the next day, he knew that these 3 were working in the Thomas Wayne Foundation. He was nominated for the mayor of the city of Gotham and appeared Thomas Wayne on TV while he was killing them, and the case turned into a public opinion case, and the government failed to arrest the criminal because he was a person disguised as a clown, and Arthur went to his workplace to gather stuff. After he was expelled with utmost absurdity and indifference. And when Arthur went to the social worker for the medications, she told him, "Sorry, the mayor stopped funding for all sectors and social services, and this will be the last meeting." Arthur goes at night to perform at a club for comedy shows, and when he stood on stage, his symptoms increase, and he laughs hysterically and can't tell any joke and fails in his attempt to be a comedian. But his neighbor, Sophie, was there and encouraged him, and he goes out with her after the show, and he started seeing newspaper headlines like "Killer Clown on the Loose," and the ruling regime and the media were very interested in this case. As for the people, they were restricting the killer just because the victims were rich, even if there were people who wore a clown mask in the streets. When Arthur returned home, he opened one of the letters that his mother sent to Thomas Wayne, and he read it and found written in it, "Dear Thomas, your son needs your help." Arthur collapsed and got angry and asked his mother, "That's true?" She told him, "Yes, it's true, and started telling him that she was a maid in Thomas's house, and they loved each other. But because of appearances, Thomas couldn't get over her and didn't acknowledge her son, and made her sign a paper saying this. Arthur went to Thomas's palace, where he stopped at the gate and found his son Bruce. So he started playing with him a little, and here one of the palace servants comes and enters the child and asks Arthur to leave. Arthur tells him, "I am the son of Bonnie Fleck. She used to work here for a long time." The servant was surprised and said to him, "Are you her son?" "Arthur," he said, "yes, and you told me everything." The servant said, "There is nothing for her to tell you anyway. Your mother was imagining things." Arthur grabs him and strangles him, but he lets go and runs. When he goes, he finds his mother sick and taken to the hospital because of a sudden stroke. And his neighbor Sophie comes to support him and stands by him. And when she goes out to get coffee for them to drink, Arthur turns on the TV to watch his favorite show by Murray Franklin. High surprise that Murray is showing a video clip of Arthur when he was at the comedy club, and he calls him the Joker and keeps mocking him and his laughter that is due to the symptoms of his illness. The city's economic situation has become worse, and with the increase in unemployment, poverty, theft, and looting, the feelings of anger that have taken hold of the city's residents increase. So they go out to the streets demonstrating, masked with clown masks, against the rich and politicians. Arthur gets down and joins the demonstrators in front of the mayoral candidate's headquarters, Thomas Wayne, and is able to sneak in. And he gets inside and wears the servant's clothes and sneaks into the showroom where the city's wealthy people were sitting and watching comedy shows, while at the same time there are demonstrations outside in front of the headquarters against them. Arthur enters after Thomas where the bathroom is and says to him, "My name is Arthur and Penny Flick is my mom." Thomas says, "Listen, you know what you're going to say. I'm not your father. Your mom has been delusional her whole life. She adopted you when you were little and kicked her out because she was arrested and imprisoned and admitted to Arkham State Hospital," and leaves him and walks. And at night, Arthur gets a call from Shirley Woods, the organizer of the live shows for Maury Franklin, and she says, "We got a lot of comments on your video clip after we showed it, and Maury asked me to call you out to be guest in his show." And she set a date for Thursday. Arthur goes out and goes to Arkham State Hospital, and he was shocked with her file, which contained that she was actually suffering from a disorder of delusion, and she was imprisoned for assaulting a child she adopted. She also allowed a friend of hers to assault him. Arthur did not comprehend all the reports and was shocked, but his shock turned into a volcano of anger when he returned home and discovered that his neighbor was not admiring me and had never gone out with him or visited him in the hospital. This relationship was just an illusion in his mind. But so he went to the hospital and strangled his mother and killed her without telling her that he knew everything, and returned home without caring, and began to prepare himself by training for his interview on the live show with Maury Franklin. And here his colleague, who used to work with him at work, Randall, and Gary Randall, come to him and tell him, "The police investigated all of us at work in the murder that happened on the train. And now I'm suspected. That's why I needed your testimony." Before he finishes, his words start to stabbing Arthur and kills him, and says to Gary, "You're the only one who did me good, so I'll let you go." He puts on his suit and draws his mask with makeup and goes down to attend the live show with the media personality Maury Franklin. Here he dances his famous dance, between pain and hope and between ecstasy and brokenness, and is surprised by the investigators. They tell him, "We want to talk to you." So he runs away from them and enters the train station to be surprised by everything. Around him, they are masked with a clown mask, and the investigators are behind him and searching for him on the train. Arthur pulls the mask from a person and opens the trap and puts on the mask and disappears among the people. When the investigators tried to break up the fight, the person present clashes with them. A masked person from those present tries to take the gun from the investigator and is done, shooting the masked man unintentionally. Then the people get angry and attack the investigators. And Arthur arrives at the program. Maury, he asks him about the mask on his face in solidarity with the protesters. Arthur, he tells him, "No, it's just one of my work tools, nothing more." and he asks Maury to introduce him on the program as the Joker. And he tells him, "This is the nickname you gave to me on your program. Do you remember?" Maury didn't remember, and he asks his assistant, "Did I say that?" "Anyway, I agree. I'll give you the Joker." And the program starts, and Arthur's segment comes. And Maury introduces him as the Joker, and he enters while dancing amidst the audience's cheers. Maury admires Arthur's way of entering, and he tells him, "I know you're a funny clown. How about you tell us some jokes?" Arthur took out his book and opened it, and when he started telling his jokes, Maury was making fun of everything he said. Arthur suddenly changed the course of the show, and he said to him, "Excuse me, Maury? The past period was difficult for me after I killed Wall Street employees on the train." Arthur's confession was a golden plate for Maury to confess to a murderer on his show on the air. So he started to go along with him and wanted to hear more from Arthur. Arthur said to him, "You are very interested in them just because they are rich. But if I died on the sidewalk, you would walk over me and no one would notice." Maury said to him, "You are trying to justify killing people, Arthur. But not all people are hateful." Arthur turned to him and his tone of voice changed. And he said to him, "But you are hateful, Maury. You showed a video of me and invited me on the show to make fun of me. This is your reward." Maury, and he shoots himself in the head. Amidst the panic and terror in the studio, Arthur gets up and shoots him in the heart again, and Arthur is arrested from the studio. And in the streets was the city of corpses, exploding with popular anger which controlled all the people of the city against the regime and the police. And a police car collides with a fire truck that was driven by a demonstrator wearing a clown mask, and they get the Joker out of the car, and the riots and chaos increase in the city, and the assault and looting of shopping centers, shops, etc. And here is Thomas Wayne and his wife and son trying to escape from the riot. But he and his wife are killed along with Bruce's son, Ada, by a masked protester. Amid chants, protesters in the name of the Joker. The Joker wakes up and stands on top of a car as a national hero and a symbol of the revolution against the rich, and dances his famous dance on top of the car with full support from the people. And in the last shot, the mysterious point, Arthur is sitting in front of the psychiatrist who the police brought to treat him, and he laughs hysterically for a long time. The doctor asks him, "What are you laughing at?" The Joker tells her, "I was thinking about a point," and he thinks of the child, the son of Thomas Wayne, who killed his father and mother and left him alive. This child is Bruce Wayne, Batman in the old parts of the movie. And when he grows up, he will be the Joker who left the hospital, and Batman tries to take revenge on him because he thinks that the Joker is the one who killed his father and mother. The doctor says to him, "Can you tell me this point?" He tells her, "You won't understand it." And with that, our movie ends today. Don't forget, if you're not subscribed to the channel, come on, subscribe and activate the bell, and tell us in the comments that we are working on the second part.